we have another wave, no pun intended, of Atlantean Mermail support in Supreme Darkness, which probably a good idea for them because the first wave kind of flopped. You know, not really, because I do remember some people trying it in the OCG after the set came out. And obviously for the TCG, it remains to be seen whether the new Mermail cards will see play or not, because they aren't out yet. But like, so far, I feel like the first wave hasn't been a great success, at least, right? Like in the OCG, they haven't really been using it that much. Although someone in chat is pointing out the OCG does not have Totally Awesome, so all the Bahamut Shark lines are a lot weaker. So we'll see in the TCG. Maybe there's a world where the Mermail Atlantean deck is a solid part of the format. I don't think it's going to overtake Yubel or Snake Eye in terms of like the best combo deck, but it might be solid. So another wave of Mermail support is potentially relevant depending on how good these cards are. So let's go and take a look. We have Poseidra, the Rumbling Atlantean, which is a level 7 Sea Serpent. You can only use the first and second effect once per turn each. You can send another water monster from hand or field to the graveyard as cost, important for other Atlanteans. Special summon this card from your hand. Okay, so basically summoning condition like Abyssteam, but you can even send from the field, which could be relevant. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can send an Atlantean or Mermail monster from your deck to the graveyard, then target one card your opponent controls, return it to the hand. Okay. Your opponent's monster cannot target this card for attacks while you control a monster other than Poseidra, the Rumbling Atlantean. Now, it's difficult for me to evaluate this because this card is basically exclusively good going second. Because the second effect, if your opponent has a card on the field, the second effect is completely nuts. Not because bouncing a card back to the hand is crazy, but because you're sending an Atlantean or Mermail, but for the most part an Atlantean, from your deck as cost to the graveyard, right? So like Dragoons and all that kind of stuff. Like you can send those for cost, and that's crazy. That is really, really good. So like, technically, I feel like the Atlantean Mermail deck needs help for going second, right? The deck is already really strong going first and not that great going second. So like having a card like this could help it. On the other hand, in modern Yu-Gi-Oh decks, if a card is only good going second, it doesn't make it into the main deck very often, right? Like you wouldn't really be main decking a card like this in a deck like Mermail that wants to go first if the card doesn't really have any applications for going first. Because the only thing you can do with this card when you go first is just summon it by sending an Atlantean for cost, which is like okay. But it's not great. But you can at least use it a little bit, right? You can at least use it. And it's a Sea Serpent, so like Dragoons can search it. So if you're looking for, let's say you're looking for a level 7 special summon that you can search of Dragoons. You can't search Tias with Dragoons because that's an Aqua, I believe. It's Aqua or Fish. It's not a Sea Serpent. So like maybe you would play one as a search target for Dragoons. I don't know. And then going second, it goes really hard. It's an okay card, definitely. It's not crazy, but it's all right. It's all right. And I want to emphasize this. I do like that they are giving Atlanteans more tools for going second without making the deck even more busted going first, actually. Maybe that's the correct direction to take the deck, because like the you really don't want the Atlantean Mermail deck to be more powerful going first, right? Like it's already one of those decks that arguably does way too much going first and hand loops and stuff like that. So like I'm fine with them giving the deck more tools for going second and not for going first. But still, at the end of the day, that might end up making the cards too bad to even see play in a deck that inherently wants to go first. But we'll see about it. All right, next up, we've got an Xyz monster. Seems like that's already it for the main deck monsters. We have Abysstrite Retrain. Abysstrite, the Atlantean Spirit, which is a water sea serpent Xyz and requires 2 or more level 7 water monsters. You can only use the first and third effect of this card's name each once per turn. If this card is Xyz summoned, you can target a level 7 or lower fish, sea serpent, or aqua monster in your graveyard. Special summon it. Okay, so 2 level 7s will give you a monster reborn. I have to quickly double check something because I feel like that's very important for this card. I have to quickly check the rank 7 that they get in Rage of the Abyss. Can you put this over this? Once per turn, you can also Xyz summon Poseidra by using an Atlantean or Mermail Xyz you control. Okay, it says Atlantean or Mermail, so you can put it on Abysstrite, the Atlantean spirit. Because this isn't the Mermail, so I needed to double check. Okay, that's good. That's important. Water monsters you control gain 300 attack and defense for each material. Okay, that's hardly relevant. You can detach 1 material from this card. Set 1 Abyss Trap from your deck. Okay, they're trying to make us play Abyss Traps again. I mean, my favorite pair of cards in the Mermail archetype is Abyss Lind and Abyss Sphere. I doubt people are really going to play Abyss Sphere again. But I'm seeing at the bottom of my screen, I can already see that there's a trap card down there. So maybe there's another Abyss Trap that they're trying to get us to play with this. But I think the most important part about this card is that you can just exceed into it, extend with it, and then summon Poseidra over it. Because Poseidra is the real deal, right? And previously, if you had 2 level 7s and you wanted to go into Poseidra, you would just make Abyss Gyos, which doesn't really have any applications, right? For going first, Abyss Gyos is exclusively an end board piece. You don't want to overlay on top of it. So like this being a good level 7 that just gives you 1 or 2 effects and then you overlay with it is pretty good, right? Like you're just going to Xyz summon it, you're going to get the revive effect, and then if you do play any Abyss Traps, you also get that 2 things for free, and then overlay into Poseidra, do something with that, and get back 3 level 3 or lower fish, sea serpent, or aquas, right? So pretty cool, actually. I think this one's pretty good. Because the whole, like, it felt weird for Mermails to be so centered around level 7s, but making Abyss Gyos just to overlay on top of it doesn't feel right, because that card is meant to stay on the field. It's not meant to be Exceed material. So I think that's cool. And then we have Abyssteam. Oh, I love the artwork on that. It's just Tias, Turge, and Marksman having a good time. All right. Grandmark, thank you for the 23 months. Started playing Paleo last month. All right. Have you finished the game yet, or are you still in your first one? If so, good luck. I hope you win your first game. Abyssteam, normal trap. You can only use the first and second effect of this card's name each once per turn. Draw cards equal to the number of different types among fish, sea serpent, and aqua monsters you control. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck until the end of your next turn after this card resolves, except water monsters. Okay. So this is probably better than Abyss Sphere. Because we simply, depending on how big of a board you can set up, you will draw 1, 2, or 3 cards with this. And you are going to get it for free off of this Atlantean spirit over here. So like if you can consistently set up, I mean, Toad is an aqua, which is something you're going to try to end up. I mean, Bahamut Shark summoning Toad is already fish and aqua if you keep the Bahamut Shark around. And I guess this is your sea serpent or whatever else you're going to end up on. I think depending on what kind of combos you go for, it should be really easy to draw 2 cards with this. Oh, Bahamut Shark is a sea serpent? Really? I thought Bahamut Shark would be a fish, but let me check. I thought it's a fish. No, it's a sea serpent. What? Today I learned Bahamut Shark is a sea serpent. That makes no sense. Anyways, doesn't really matter. Bahamut Shark into Toad is still 2 different types, but I thought it was a fish, but whatever. I am sure... I'm sure that the Mermail deck can easily set up 2 to 3 draws with this card. If you couldn't easily search this card, I don't think you would play it, but because you can, I think that is a consideration. Obviously, drawing cards, as weird as it sounds, but like setting up draw 2 or draw 3 on a trap card is not that crazy, because you're only going to do it on your opponent's turn. So the cards you will draw will only matter immediately if you draw into hand traps, which I'm not sure if Mermail is the type of deck to play a bunch of hand traps. It strikes me more as like a more combo heavy deck with a lot of engine. So like drawing more of your Mermail engine on the opponent's turn isn't ideal, but it'll basically always guarantee follow-up. The question is, does a Mermail deck that gets to combo off, does it really need follow-up? Because you're gonna like summon Toads, you're gonna Mooling Glacia, you're gonna like hand rip your opponent for multiple cards. Is it really relevant for you to set up follow-up? Because Toad is also follow-up, right? Like you're gonna Toad negate, add back waters. Toad negate, add back waters. Like you're gonna have a lot of follow-up regardless. So that remains to be seen if a card like this is like, there are some decks that would really like this card. There are other decks that like don't really need this type of effect. Not sure what kind of deck Mermail is. I think I'm leaning more towards like it's a nice bonus, but your deck doesn't really need it because it's another dead draw when you're going second. It has a secondary effect though. If a face-up water is destroyed by battle or card effect while it's in the graveyard, banish it, add a Mermail from your graveyard of banishment to your hand. So like, here's the thing. Every part of me wants to love this card, right? Like I think that the world in which this card sees play is a great world for me, because it's a world where a card that is exclusively here for setting up resources and grind game and follow-up sees play, right? That's a good thing in my book. Now the thing is that the world we live in with a Mermail deck? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's the type of effect a Mermail deck is looking for in 2024. Now the Mermail deck from back in the day that I used to love would have loved this card. Obviously, game was much slower, deck was a lot more grindier than it is today. Would have been an auto include in every single Mermail list back in the day. Not sure if it's still the deck today that would play this card, but we'll see. Yeah, overall, I think the highlight of this batch is definitely the new Exceed. The rank 7 is great, I think. It's going to be a very good addition to the Mermail deck, because you finally have something that actually is worth going for to overlay into Poseidra, right? I think Poseidra is a very, very good card. The problem with this card is that it is very impractical to summon, because you either have to just summon an Abysgaios, which serves no real purpose other than ranking up into this, or you're summoning Bahamut Shark to summon out Abysstrite. And Bahamut Shark summoning Abysstrite is impractical because Bahamut Shark wants to summon Totally Awesome, right? When you're playing a water deck especially, whenever your Bahamut Shark does not summon Totally Awesome, something is going wrong, right? Like that doesn't feel right. So like, giving them a good rank 7 that does something when it's summoned and then wants to be overlaid anyways into Poseidra, that's good. That's a good thing for the deck. The other two are like potentially playable cards that might find their way into the deck but might also not. But overall, that's cool.